My name is Margie Ratliff from The Staircase, and I give my permission to be filmed. I understand it's a documentary about documentary subjects.
Documentaries are having a moment.
They're doing great at the box office.
They're becoming a part of pop culture.
The hunger for great nonfiction has grown and grown and grown and grown.
Many choose to be on camera because they want to set their record straight.
We know that documentary can have a concrete impact on our world.
It's important for people to understand that a subject, that's a real person.
I had been invisible for a long time.
I was able to get my mom a new car, a new house.
I wanted this. I didn't really give thought to how it might affect my children.
My siblings and I were so young. We didn't have a choice.
I think the question is the relationship between the documentarian and the subject truthful?
A documentary is becoming part of someone's story.
How might that change that person's life?
Think twice of who you be around.
I'd like to be stripped from the staircase.
They giving you their stories, and in many cases, risking their lives.
The subject is there for us to manipulate for the ends of the film.
Was that the right intervention that family needed? Camera placed on them.
Should all of these films get made?
So it's very nice to meet you both. It's such a privilege, pleasure. We're speaking with one of the two co-directors of Subject here, who is Jennifer Tiexiera, and one of the subjects of Subject. This can get a little confusing. We're going to talk our way through it. And then, of course, is Margie Ratliff. Ratliff. Okay, very good. I should know these things, right? I mean, God knows I've been doing this so long, but it doesn't in any way diminish my real pleasure of meeting you both and having seen Subject. So I guess my first question is to Jennifer. Camilla regretfully isn't here, but and that is, can you talk a little bit of, since the movie is basically exploring what the experience is being a subject of a documentary that many people see and all that comes out of that experience during, after, and there's, I'd say, good around a half dozen, 5, 6, right, different films or subjects from different documentaries explored. And obviously Margie is just one of them from The Staircase. Can you just talk a little bit first, Jennifer, about how you arrived at the films, the documentary, and the subjects that are highlighted in the film?
Sure. Well, these were all films that greatly influenced both Camille and I by extraordinary filmmakers, films that really changed our life. For me personally, that was Hoop Dreams. I saw that in my early 20s and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make documentaries. That's the kind of impact it had on me. And we were at a point in both of our careers, two very different careers. Camilla had come from a world of journalism and made her first documentary film, whereas I had been in the documentary industry much longer, about 15 years at that point as an editor. But we had a lot of the same questions and the same sort of, I guess you would say, like existential crises at the same time about if we were doing more harm and good in certain situations, and how there just seemed to be a real lack of resources as it pertained to navigating some of these crazier ideas surrounding ethics. So that's where we kind of started discussing this, and that it really made sense to hear from participants themselves. And very serendipitously at the same time, Margie had reached out to Camilla about potentially working for her. And I will let Margie take it over from here, but truly I can say that there would be no subject if Margie hadn't agreed to, or just actually not even, because she didn't really agree to anything. She just said she didn't say it was a bad idea. I think she, we always say if she said it was a stupid idea, we would have never made it. But Margie,
I just want to insert one thing before Margie, you jump in, and that is, I mean, unless I'm incorrect, you go to the horse's mouth here, and like with Margie, you talking, getting, you go to the subjects of these documentaries, and for each of the films, in this case, The Staircase, there's also, you mentioned Hoop Dreams. There's a few others we'll maybe talk about a little bit about, some, maybe touch on them, but that you don't talk to the directors. And is that true with those cases?
Yeah, I mean, so we had 90 minutes and it's called subject. That's not to say that the voice of those original directors were not included. They were made very aware of the process from the beginning.
Wow.
And then also additionally given the opportunity to workshop the film with us in rough cut stage to make sure that we got as close to everybody's truth as possible. So that, and most of the filmmakers took us up on that. And so that was months and months of workshopping the films with the original directors. And so they are quite represented in the film, even though they're not on screen interviewed.
But I do appreciate that choice.
Oh, it was necessary. And I will say that the directors that did take us up on it, they made the film stronger. There was, yes, I'm not gonna lie, like, of course, as in any rough cut presentation, there's those awkward conversations. But there was things that like we wouldn't have been able to get right if it wasn't for their generosity and sitting with us and going through the cut and going into their personal archives and opening up to us in such an incredible way.
Go ahead, Margie, what do you have a follow-up? Do you have some thoughts about that? And Jennifer mentioned that you had reached out to Camilla. Was that what I talk about that too? Like, what I didn't, you're almost a producer on this film, it sounds like.
I actually am a producer on the film. That's
See?
my credit, as well as a participant.
I know. I'm just playing dumb. Very good at it.
No, it's okay. It's an unusual process that we made to make this film. So it was like an experiment to see what are the ways that we can do things differently. So from the beginning, I had been working in the film industry in LA in a different capacity, having studied documentary, but working more in the fiction side. And when I found out that Netflix was releasing, so many episodes and new episodes of The Staircase, I said, oh my gosh, okay, I can't really hide anymore. I hadn't told anyone about being in The Staircase. Everyone's going to know, so I might as well just do what I want to do, which is documentary. So I set out to just chat with, people in the documentary industry that I kind of had connections with, but had never really wanted to, go to that space before. And so one of our mutual friends connected Camilla and myself. And so I met Camilla for coffee 5 days before Netflix released The Staircase. And I don't think it had been announced, or Camilla wasn't aware. She knew that I was in The Staircase, but I don't think she knew about Netflix. So when she told me her idea for subject, I said, well, I could probably consult on that. And then he said, oh, because Netflix is coming out on Friday and I'm going to go out into Joshua Tree National Park and hide and go rock climbing. And so that brought us on our journey. I said, I don't really want to be in your film, but I'd love to produce it. And I'd love to, help you all out as much as possible. And then things progressed from there.
Yeah. Wow, what a series. And when we talk about The Staircase, you're talking about the documentary version, the documentary series, which was directed by Jean-Javier de l'Estrade, right?
Yeah, Jean-Javier. Yeah.
Jean what?
Oh, Xavier.
Xavier, okay. Javier, I guess, would be the Spanish version. That's
Yeah,
true.
that'd be the Spanish.
Yeah.
It's French.
Well, I'm multilingual, and I don't apologize for it. But and then, of course, during the course of making this film, the narrative version, the narrative series, my gosh. So, but talk a little bit of personally, Margie, about you came on almost like in this almost on a practical level, like, okay, this is something I'm interested in. I want people to understand this. And then there's also, though, the impact of the documentary when it comes out, and it's not a positive impact for you. And then like we said, the narrative comes out and it just dredges all the stuff, this personal story that you like. Other people can watch it for entertainment. They can popcorn, right, and kind of settle into the couch and enjoy an evening watching Netflix or HBO. But this is your life.
Yeah, I think someone said it so interestingly on, of course, it was Facebook, the cesspool of Facebook. They said, I prefer the HBO Max staircase to the documentary because the acting was better.
That kind of sums it up. You're right.
It really does. It's I've just been approached over the past 20 years of my life over and over again by people who don't understand that it's a traumatic part of my life that I don't want to talk about to a stranger. And they make all sorts of assumptions about myself and my family. And so going into this, I really wanted to help other people who had also been burned by documentaries. And also just let audiences know, hey, we're real people. The fictional series about Jeffrey Dahmer, there are families of the victims and they are speaking out. And these are real people who don't want to relive trauma from so long ago over and over again. So it's been an interesting process with Subject.
Well, it seems so obvious, Jennifer, that the documentary filmmaking community and those that orbit in that orbit, which includes also programmers and journalists and people like me, we discuss the ethics of documentary and have been for many years, especially once the documentary genre kind of blew up about 10-15 years ago. And yet I don't think anybody's ever gone to the subjects. It seems so obvious. But
right.
It seems like it's a conversation happening in panels throughout the country, right? Or in the world, really, in the film festival, culture. But I don't remember.
Yeah. I think that these were all the conversations we were all happening behind closed doors. I think that it was just a bit of a broken system. It was rooted in this idea of a very extractive process. And then once you start to commodify that, and there's a bottom line involved, the first thing to go are ethics. They cost money and they take time. Mm-hmm. And one thing I can say is, Subject in so many ways is a love letter to this industry that we love very much. And we really wanted to just be better at minimizing some of the, I've never met anyone in this industry that got into it because they wanted to do more damage than good. It's like a big group of empaths and like this need to understand story and people's, other people's worlds. And so I think the idea that, some of these films were doing more harm than good was really something that, shouldn't all be on the shoulders of the filmmaker. It's also the infrastructure. It's this idea of delivering something in, 6 to 8 weeks instead of 6 to 8 months. It's this idea of, trying to squeeze out life rights with stupidly worded contracts that say something about like in the universe and perpetuity, and things that like no normal person would sign. And it becomes very predatory. And so until we can actually have really open conversations and look at this for what it actually is, which is a partnership or a collaboration with these people who are so generously letting us into their lives. I think that, you know, we still have a long way to go, but now what exists are resources. There's resources that did exist when I was coming up, right? There's the DOG framework, which is the Documentary Accountability Working Group. Sonia Childress, Pat Offerheide, who are also in Subject, Dr. Camila Rushad. There's Documentality, who explores mental health care for participants and doc filmmakers.
Okay.
The Dart Center, I could go on and on and on.
Well, I hope you could actually put in maybe in the notes, whatever the message area. If you have a list, like I would love to talk to some more of these.
Film, we have it listed, the
Oh,
resources.
yeah, Subject. I was going to get to subject.film is the website.
Yeah.
And people should sign on to that. I mean, you know, one thing that comes out of this thing, and you know, we're talking to Margie here, who, you know, obviously had a negative, more, I don't know, comes off in a little bit more like maybe have more negative experience in the long run coming out of being part of the documentary. I mean, I don't want to minimize by summing it up in a nutshell. I mean, it's much more nuanced, and that's what I appreciated. There's no, even though, like, you know, capturing the Friedmans, obviously that's the kind of almost seems to be the harshest case, where, you know, between the mother and the son, they both really, I would say, beyond ambivalence, I would say they're pretty disappointed. But there's a whole spectrum of and they're all nuanced. There's nothing quite so black and white in terms of it, right? You know?
No, there's nothing black and white at all, actually. And in fact, Jesse says that being part of the film was the best thing that ever happened to him. It's
Jesse's the son and capturing the Friedmans.
And that is pretty much, you know, across there. It is so nuanced, and there's a lot of joy and celebration in these films as well, which, you know, we focus on. I don't think that, you know, we wouldn't keep making them if there wasn't huge things that documentaries have accomplished. And for example, in this week, you know, the series that I did for HBO, we really wanted to, you know, the whole point that we collectively agreed on, our North Star, was that there would be a federal trial in this state case. And that happened this week, as well as another film, 17 Blocks, where, so, you know, there's been an arrest 15 years later in that case. And I don't know that would have happened without the documentary, or the documentary as a resource to get that, you know. Manny was one of many who were murdered in that area at that time. But, you know, so documentaries do amazing things. And we didn't want to make any sort of, like, this is not an expose. It's really a discussion piece for discussions like this, of like, okay, we're going to.
Good point.
How do we do this the best we can?
Right. Because there is no way. I mean, everybody, as we've been saying, has a lot of different feelings all at once about their experiences. So it's true. It's a good catalyst. And boy, if you go to subject.film, your website, you'll see all the different festivals you guys have played this screened subject in, and there must have been amazing audience conversations and Q&As, all that kind of standing in the lobby for hours, you know.
Hours.
One thing I didn't know, which I was really I thought was pretty amazing. Steve James, who is the director of Hoop Dreams and of course part of Cartem Kuden Films, and who has been, you know, on my show, I like to say, whenever I can. There were quite a few people in your film who've been on my show over the years, and Steve James is, of course, one of my favorites. And wow, he really opened the door, because, you know, it's so rare that a documentary makes a windfall. But, you know, of course, Hoop Dreams was Oscar nominated, and even though it didn't win the Oscar, it made a lot of money, and the producers decided to share their profits with all of the subjects of Hoop Dreams who had speaking parts, I guess you call it. And that creates quite a dilemma for all the other filmmakers who either can't or choose not to share the profits.
I mean, does it though? I mean, like, the thing is, I mean, in independent films, I mean,
Yeah.
look, we didn't have money to, I mean, we did what we could to make sure that no money was coming out of their pockets, right? And so whether that's in the form of paying for archival or meals or travel costs, childcare,
right.
those are all things that seem pretty like a no-brainer. But when it comes to the points on the back end, I think Sam Pollard says it. I mean, he says it amazingly. He's like,
Another podcast regular.
Yeah,
Sorry.
a lot of you're not gonna. A lot of these things don't see money. A lot of films, we're definitely not in it for the money. We're not making, but if there's a way that you can say part of the pool, so if you make money, the film makes money, that the participants see some of it too. I mean, what a gesture, right? And so that's the model, and that's what Steve James and his partners did on Hoop Dreams. That's what we did in Subject, and that's just like that was a collective agreement that that was going to be set aside for them.
And frankly, there is a legitimate argument to be made for or conversation to be had around incentivizing and incentivizing subjects of documentaries. If there's money involved, it's going to definitely have an impact. I don't know. It's just something to talk about. But yeah, that was pretty. I mean, I just did not realize that had happened with Hoop Dreams, but it was this huge film, and I mean, certainly one of the early films, maybe along with Roger and Me, that turned the documentary film into a real legit kind of theatrical money making genre. Correct. So the other films I think we should touch on. I mean, and I'm curious to know, Margie, if you've had what your experience is with some of the other subjects. The Square, Wolfpack. We mentioned Capturing the Friedmans and Hoop Dreams. And forgive me if I'm forgetting any others. Probably, but I don't know, Margie, if did you get to know any of the other subjects since you are a producer on the film?
Yes. So I had originally met Jesse. We all went to go meet Jesse Friedman and his mom. Well, Jesse first, and then he introduced us to his mom at the beginning of the project. And after that, it was so life-changing just meeting Jesse, because I had gone so many years with myself and my family as feeling like there was no one else in the world who could understand what we went through. Being in like an original true crime documentary.
Yeah, sure.
That ruins your life or changes your life dramatically. And having no control over it. And meeting Jesse, I went, oh my God, there's somebody else. I had seen Capturing the Friedmans and just sobbed when it came out, because my dad was, had gone to prison, and I felt like, what is this world coming to, that these stories keep on coming out? And so there was like this beautiful healing moment with Jesse, but it brought up a lot of trauma. It brought up a lot of past sadness and fear. And so I took a little break from Subject, like just said, Jen and Camilla, I need a little bit of space. I need to reconnect with my therapist and work on myself a little bit. And I think that, I don't know if Jen and Camilla, maybe Jen, you can speak to this, but I'm sure you guys were like a little nervous inside, but your outward facing to me was, oh yeah, we get it. That we didn't realize how heavy that would be. And it kind of spurred this idea of bringing on a psychologist for our film, Dr.
Amazing.
Rashad.
That's amazing.
And then even further, having met Mukunda, and then really it was with Dr. Rashad running these Zoom calls. It was during the pandemic. We were all preparing to release the film, premiere the film at Tribeca, and we were nervous. Jesse and I especially, our premiere at Tribeca was 2 days after the final episode of the Staircase HBO Max fiction series aired. And so we were kind of scared. And it was so nice to have big Arthur, basketball player Arthur, go, oh, if someone asked a question that's not okay at the panel, I got you. And it was like, oh,
wow.
I'm in a community of people who kind of understand the strange place I am in this world. And it spurred
really
me
is.
to make a nonprofit. So I'm starting making a 501c3 to bring mental health resources and legal resources, advocacy and community to documentary participants, just to help them out and see, like, if you're approached to be in a documentary, what questions do you ask? And how do you know if you're signing away your whole life rights in a consent form?
Good. I'll get you back on here then. The name of the film is Subject, and it is actually premiering Friday, November 3rd in New York City and in Los Angeles. It'll be at the IFC Center in New York City. Please correct me if I got this. And at the Laemmle Glendale in LA, again on Friday the 3rd. Thanks to Greenwich Entertainment, who is distributing the film. And it is co-directed by Jennifer Tiexiera, who's here with us, and Camila Hall, who couldn't be, but my best to her, and of course to the film, and also to Margie Ratliff, who is a producer on the film as well as a subject of the film. And did I leave anything out? I probably.
Oh, we have a Chicago theatrical premiere as
Oh,
well.
well, yeah. Oh, you know, because there was I know Gordon Quinn was one of the people interviewed. Obviously, there's a big Hoop Dreams was related to Cartemquin. Steve James has a long relationship with Cartemquin, and also you mentioned 17 Blocks. Isn't that Cartemquin related? No. Maybe not.
No.
Doesn't matter. No. It's okay. I don't mind making mistakes, obviously, on my show. I can edit. I can edit them. Anyway, I was wondering if they were involved in the film.
We're just very, we have a huge Chicago contingency.
Okay, right.
We have, yes, Gordon, obviously Arthur and his family are in Chicago, so they'll be on the panel. Asia Bundawi, who's a filmmaker, is based in Chicago, as well as our executive producer / team psychologist, Dr. Rashad, is based in Chicago as well.
So, and where is that happen? Is it a theatrical or is it just a?
Yes, it'll be at the Music Box the following and on the 12th.
Congratulations on all that, because a robust theatrical with a documentary is a big deal these days. That's great. And it'll, of course, meet, I guess, consideration needs and all that, right? You're a Tribeca. Fantastic. It's a pleasure. Really, I was a little nervous. I thought I was worried. I just wanted to make sure I could, do right by what you guys are doing. And I really applaud your whole, the strategy, the plan. People can find out more if they're interested at subject.film. And of course, probably on social media as well. Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Really, yeah, this is really nice. All right. Take care. Good. All right. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
Same here.